Module 6.11, Adding and Multiplying Pressures in SPLs, Part 1. Last time we spoke about how to find SPL given pressure and vice versa. Once you understand how to do that, you may want to have a quick way to make that conversion. So we're going to talk about doing SPL in a calculator. So if you have pressure and you want to find the SPL, typically you can just put in 20 log and the value for P plus 94. You may need to use parentheses around the plus 94, but typically this will work very well. If you're comparing two pressures, you will use the 20 log parentheses P divided by P0 with the closed parentheses, with the P0 being the one that you're doing the comparing to. This will also work for finding general sound pressure level, with P0 being 2 times 10 to the minus fifth. If you want to find the pressure given the dB SPL, you can use the 10 to the x key, two parentheses, SPL minus 94, parentheses, divided by 20, and a closed parentheses. So if you want to write those down when you have to start finding these, this may be a quick way for you to get the answer. Adding pressures. Now, let's add two sounds together to find their total pressure in pascals. Without getting into details, you cannot directly add pressures together to get the total pressure. Instead, what you have to do is first, you have to square the pressures. Then you add the squares together. Finally, you take the square root of the sum, and that's the total pressures. Let's do an example. Let's add the pressures of 0.07 pascals and 0.08 pascals. So to square them, we do 0.07 squared plus 0.08 squared, and that will give us 4.9 times 10 to the minus third plus 6.4 times 10 to the minus third. So when we plug that into the calculator, we get 0.0113. Now we have to take the square root of that. So we take the square root of that, plug that into a calculator, and you get 0.1063 pascals. Please notice that if we added these together, that we would get 0.15 pascals, but that is incorrect. This is the correct answer. Now, let's add two sounds together to find their total SPL. Because SPLs are based on a log scale, we cannot add dBs together. That is, for example, 80 dB plus 80 dB does not equal 160 dB. In order to add SPLs, we do the following. First, you divide each of the SPLs by 10. Then you make each of those numbers the exponent of 10. Then you add all of those 10 to the x's together. And finally, you take 10 log of the sum. Let's do an example. So let's convert the two numbers that we had before, 0.07 pascals and 0.08 pascals, into SPL. If we do that, this is 70.9 dB, and this is 72.1 dB. Now, we need to divide the SPLs by 10. So we get 7.09 and we get 7.21. We're now going to make these the exponents of 10. So we have 10 to the 7.09 plus 10 to the 7.21. When you put that into a calculator, you get a very big number. Leave that number in the calculator. And then you're going to do 10 times the log of that number. So typically, you'll do 10, you'll do the log button, and then you should have a key that allows you to put the answer in. If we do that, we're going to find that our answer is 74.5 dB. Notice this is not 70.9 plus 72.1, which would equal 143 dB. Now let's see how that compares with adding the pressures. So we had 20 log of this plus 94. If we do this calculation, we get 74.5 dB. Let's do another example. Let's add 70 dB plus 70 dB. So first, we divide the SPLs by 10 and then make them exponents of 10. 70 divided by 10 is 7. So we do 10 to the 7th plus 10 to the 7th equals 2 times 10 to the 7th. Then we do 10 log of 2 times 10 to the 7th, and we find that that equals 73 dB. Now it turns out that if you double the number of any identical sources, you will increase the SPL by 3 dB. That's because you'll always end up with 2 times whatever the dB is. And 10 log of 2 equals 3. And if you remember, this would be 10 log of 2 plus 10 log of 10 whatever this is. So this is always going to end up being the same, and we're always going to be adding that 3. So remember, doubling any identical sources adds 3 dB to the one source.